Imagine stepping into North America in the year 1600. There are no clearly defined borders, no United States, no shared understanding of land, government, or even freedom. Instead, the continent is a contested space where Native Americans, Europeans, and Africans are being pulled together, often violently, into new and unfamiliar social systems. This period, from about 1500 to 1700, was not just about exploration. It was about building new societies. As Spanish, French, Dutch, and English colonizers established settlements, they reshaped economies, cultures, labor systems, and power structures. Today, we'll explore how these colonial societies formed, and how their choices created consequences that still matter today. By the mid-17th century, North America had become a patchwork of competing European empires. Spain, France, the Dutch Republic, and England all claimed land, often without controlling much beyond a few coastal outposts. These empires were not simply expanding territory. They were exporting ideas about hierarchy, religion, labor, and property. Colonization brought together three groups who had never interacted on this scale before: Native Americans, Europeans, and Africans. Each group had its own worldview. Many native societies viewed land as communal and sacred. Europeans believed land could be owned, fenced, and sold. Africans brought diverse cultures and traditions, but were increasingly forced into systems of unfree labor. Disease shaped this era as much as warfare. European illnesses like smallpox devastated native populations, killing far more people than weapons ever did. Entire communities collapsed, leaving social and political vacuums that Europeans often exploited. At the same time, European rivalries followed colonists across the Atlantic. Religious conflict, commercial competition, and imperial ambition all played out in the Americas. Colonization was unstable, violent, and deeply contested from the very beginning. Spanish colonization Spain built the first major colonial empire in the Americas. Spanish colonies were tightly controlled and deeply hierarchical. Spanish settlers placed themselves at the top of society, with Native Americans and Africans beneath them. Two labor systems defined Spanish rule. The encomienda system assigned native laborers to Spanish landholders, who promised protection and religious instruction. In reality, this system was exploitative and violent. Religion played a central role. Catholic missionaries sought spiritual conquest alongside territorial expansion, often forcing native peoples to abandon traditional beliefs. Resistance was common. In 1680, the Pueblo Revolt successfully drove the Spanish out of New Mexico for over a decade, a rare but powerful moment of native resistance. Dutch and French colonies. The Dutch and French followed a different approach. Their colonies were smaller and focused on trade rather than mass settlement. In New Netherland, centered on present-day New York, the Dutch emphasized commerce, especially the fur trade. The colony was diverse and relatively tolerant, but relied heavily on enslaved African labor and struggled to grow. The French in New France also focused on fur trading. They formed alliances with native groups and depended on them for survival. French missionaries sought conversion, but often adapted more flexibly to native cultures than other empires. English colonies. English colonization expanded rapidly. In the Chesapeake, Virginia, and Maryland, economic goals dominated. Tobacco farming drove settlement and demanded labor. Early colonists relied on indentured servants, young Europeans working for years in exchange for passage and opportunity. Life was harsh. Disease, starvation, conflict with native peoples. Over time, colonists increasingly turned to African slavery, especially after Bacon's Rebellion revealed tensions between elites and laborers. In New England, Puritan settlers pursued religious goals. They arrived as families, built tight-knit towns, and emphasized literacy and church life. Their vision was to create a godly society, a city upon a hill. Yet intolerance and conflict followed, culminating in violent clashes like King Philip's War. To understand how colonial societies truly worked, we need to look closely at labor and race. Early on, Africans in Virginia were not automatically enslaved for life. Some gained freedom, land, and legal rights. But by the late 1600s, colonial laws hardened racial boundaries. Bacon's Rebellion was a turning point. Poor white and black laborers united against wealthy planters, terrifying the colonial elite. The response was racial slavery. New laws made African slavery permanent, hereditary, and enforced by violence. At the same time, Native Americans faced devastating losses. European trade goods reshaped warfare, hunting, and and ecosystems. Overhunting, land seizure, and disease transformed native life forever. Colonial societies were built through conflict, coercion, and compromise, and their structures did not disappear when the colonial era ended. Between 1500 and 1700, European colonization created new social orders in the Americas. Spanish colonies emphasized hierarchy and religious authority. French and Dutch colonies focused on trade and alliances. English colonies expanded rapidly and developed racial slavery. Native Americans resisted colonization but faced disease, warfare, and environmental destruction. Africans endured forced migration and bondage, yet resisted and preserved culture. The colonial era shaped ideas about race, labor, religion, and power, ideas that still influence American society today. Understanding these early social orders helps explain why inequality and conflict did not begin later, but were built into the system from the start. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you understand history, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more lessons that will help you succeed in this class and beyond. See you in the next video.